All right, welcome to Culture Couch Live. This week we've got James, Carly and Woz. How are you, crew?
Good, thanks, Wizzy.
Well, so the regular listeners, we speak a little bit about podcasts and articles and things like that. There's one that sort of sparked a little bit of outrage amongst the Performance by Design crew. So we might unpack that. So it's titled 5 Things That Change When You Become a Leader. And number one, and as I said, without putting words in anyone's mouth, we sort of vehemently disagree with. Now, number one is your friends are no longer your friends. If you're promoted to lead the team that you were once part of, you may need a relationship reset. Now, that sort of sparked a little bit of conversation around. So I might kick off this one, which I don't normally do. It's funny because having coached for 11 years, it was never real. It was always an outcome friendship. It was funny. Like I never felt, and I played with all the guys at Sydney, Mickey O'Loughlin, Stewie Maxfield, a lot of the guys. So I already had a relationship with them and I was already friends. But I suppose for us, as at Performance by Design, it really is about how you treat people, and probably one thing I heard, which I really enjoy more than that last comment, is that leadership should be judged on the number of weddings you go to. So that's the complete opposite of what this article was saying, which I subscribe to. But let's unpack it, James. I mean, let's start with you, because it was, as I said, it's not often that we get an outrage when we look at someone's article sort of thing. So it was a really good conversation that we can now explore on the Culture Couch Live.
Yeah, look, thanks, Rizzy. I also disagree with it. I think one thing I reflect upon, particularly in PBD, is the fact that we talk about trust and building the trust deposits, etc., capability, or competence, character, and care, and we're very strong on that care piece. It goes straight to the culture code, developing strong professional relationships. I just think, and I can reflect on my own career where you've just invested time in understanding and getting to know people, understanding yourself, getting to know people and getting a level of understanding about them. By default, it sort of leads to a deepening of the relationship. And if friendship arises as a result of that, it should survive whether you had to be the leader, challenging behaviours or calling out performance. It should survive that because you've got the relationship as the bedrock. It's not simply being it's not a separation story for me. I don't agree with it at all, actually.
Yeah, you're right about the care piece, because we talk a lot about that. And certainly in football, we read a lot now about the relationships between the coaches and players and some of the exercises that clubs have done around vulnerability and that space. Carly, by the nature, it's almost the opposite, isn't it? It's almost like saying you've got to treat people so they don't like you. So it's just a really strange concept to come to terms with, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think back to my career too, and I think there is that sort of subconscious thing about when you're the leader, you have to be the one to pave the way, you have to be the one to pull people up and tell them when they're not doing things well. So you can't, get in the trenches and have a few drinks together. You've got to be seen as the responsible one. So I sort of understand that point of view. And, I used to always sort of have a few drinks and then leave by 10 o'clock. So I didn't get into the messy business. So I sort of get that point of view. Yeah. But at the same time now, you get so much better work done when you've got a really good relationship with the person, when you understand how they're going to work, when you know what's driving them behind the scenes. And to say that, you should give that up when you become a leader absolutely sounds ludicrous, because when you become a leader, that's when you want to be driving people to an outcome, to be getting them all on board, to be getting them all working in the same direction. And to do that, you need to have a really strong relationship with them. So yeah, absolutely. I think that it's really important to keep doing it when you're a leader, for sure.
And certainly we're not talking about lowering standards. So there's nothing here where we're saying, we've got to be all mates. James, turned up late today, but he's a mate of mine, so I'm going to let him get away with that. Was got a bit messy at the lunch on Friday, so we'll let him get away with that because we're mates. So there's no suggestion from Performance by Design.
What's
that
happening here was he's suggesting you might get messy at the lunch. What's up with that?
I don't know what you mean. I have no idea what you mean, Rosie.
But let's be really clear. We're not saying we're lowering standards.
No.
What we're saying is that we care about our staff enough that we're going to build really strong relationships.
Yeah.
And part of that care, to James's comment around character and competence, part of that care is holding people to high standards as well.
Yeah, it goes in every direction, right? Like first off, the one you're saying the outcome is friendship. I love that you said that because that's ultimately the case. Like if you just think about your mates in general, a lot of instances you don't necessarily give the depths of vulnerability around things that you're challenged by, but with the right culture and ultimately the right team supporting you and the right program and activities in place, you'll end up saying deeper things with the individuals in your organisation they may not have said with your mates before anyway, right? So that first off, that the deeper relationships is developed by installing the right culture. And with deeper relationships, it allows you to go to both ways because first off, the angle is care, right? So I can go and be really firm with one guy about what my expectations are because he knows that I care about him, but also I can go the opposite side and talk about what's happening at home and is he okay and has he fixed some of those challenges that he might have been facing that it's external to work. Yeah. And so with that you can go both directions, I think, and that ends up ultimately having better friendships. So just yesterday, it's funny, I had a meeting with one of my guys that and we might be sort of parting ways in the next little bit, and he said his best man at his wedding through this period that he's going through in his life has not been around, but me as his boss has been more engaged with him as an individual through this process, and he sees our relationship as stronger. And I've only known him for 2 years. This guy's known him for 25. So that's a big difference, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. And then I guess that's the thing. You'd hate to go to a workplace where one of the objectives or KPIs was for the boss not to be allowed to be friends because you're spending so much time with them. And I guess, James, the flip side to that is that friendship and honesty and care allows someone to help me as a coach. So a player to walk into my office and say, Ruzi, shit, what you said on the weekend wasn't great, 3/4 time, are you okay? So it's actually extending both ways. So that's
absolutely, Ruzi. I think the other thing to further that point, you find when the relationships are deeper, they're more meaningful, but the communication is more instant. So there's the positive, and then there's the challenging stuff, and I expect to receive it, and my friends within my team expect to get it. But if it's all saved up for the performance appraisal at the end of the year, Merry Christmas, here's a whack around the ears. There's no relationship there. There can't be friendship. So more done more regularly, a little more often, as we say, is key, and it just enables it. Yep, thanks for the heads up on that. Thanks for reminding me of that, and we all move on. Everyone's happy. It doesn't feel like it's a big deal,
Yeah, I do on that, Carly. It's this mental health and wellness has become a big factor, sort of thing. So, I think that instance of care again. Friendship's an outcome. So we're not necessarily saying my objective is to be friends with everyone at my company, but certainly if we're looking at creating a really positive workplace to psychological safety, we talk about 4-to-1 positive to negative ratio. We're talking about the mental health and well-being of our organisation. Surely we need to be really mindful of the way we treat our people.
And it really feels like that evolution of leadership, doesn't it? We've heard you talk about, coaches you had back in the 80s where they'd just be all directive and shouting in your face and stuff. And leadership, there absolutely can be great leaders who have that profile, but leadership now is much more about empathy and much more about understanding and much more about bringing people along the journey with you. And particularly post-pandemic, when we're, the mental health situation of people are all really prominent. And, you know, we're in this situation. Clients say to us every week, the team doesn't want to come back into the office. They want to work from home. We've got this hybrid environment. How do we manage it? If we're not empathetic about everyone's situations and we're not building that relationship so we understand where they're coming from, then it's going to become harder and harder for us to lead through those situations. So again, as we say in all of our workshops, you know, you've got to step into those different profiles, into those different energies, so that if people need that from you, you're able to deliver it when they need it. But hearing you say before, Ruzi, oh, now you're a leader, you're not allowed to be friends with anyone, saying it like that, it just sounds so ridiculous. Like, really?
Yeah, as we wrap it up, it's funny, because normally we sort of read most stuff and we go, that's a tick, and great podcast, and really interesting. Brene Brown's great, and who else? Stephen Covey, and so we really enjoy it. But this was one that really sort of sparked us, because the basis of our work, we believe, is around setting a really clear foundation of culture code, and then holding people accountable. But part of that is the care and the relationship factor. So thanks. It was, as I said, I think we got a bit fired up, maybe pre-Culture Couch Live. We settled down a little bit, hopefully for the listeners at home. But I just think, you're right, Carly. The objective shouldn't be not to be a friend. That certainly should not be the objective. Now, should the objective to be friends with everyone? No, not necessarily. But I think if we take what the four of us are saying, clearly we'd rather have good relationships with our staff than bad relationships, because we spend so much time with them. James, final comment I might whip around, final comment from each of you.
I reckon there might be a fourth C we need to add to competence, character, and care. I mean, because Carly called it out, connection. You know, it's like in this era now, it's about how can we stay connected to deliver the care at the, So it's a really interesting point that Carly's called out, and I think that is one of the challenges we continue to stare into with our clients.
Final comment from you?
Oh, I'd suggest the opposite. Like, identify how much or how many people in the organisation you feel like you have a friendship with, and that would determine probably the breadth of your success as a leader. I think.
Great point. Carly?
Yeah, I just think that we still need to be really mindful of being kind to each other in this environment. And, you know, we're all at the stage now where we need to get back into it and get things done. But, you know, things are not the same as they were 2 years ago. So, you know, the relationship is really, really important.
Yeah, and I'll just finish off by saying, get your culture code, really clear on what that is, build really, really strong relationships, and still hold people to high standards. You know, now if that results in a friendship, fantastic. I think that's awesome. If it doesn't, well, that's someone else's choice, and maybe it's the wrong environment for them, not necessarily for you. So great conversation. Thanks, James.
Love it.
Thanks, Woz. Thanks, Carly. And we'll see you all. We'll see you all next week on Culture Couch Live.